You know, I was really hoping my next video was going to be a build video, but looks like that's not happening. I generally like to get these news videos out as quickly as possible because, you know, news is only news for so long. And yesterday Cryptic made not one, but 2 new announcements, so let's get into it. The first announcement was for the new Elite Captain Boost tokens. They're kind of like the experimental upgrade tokens for your ships, except instead of applying to a ship, they apply to your captain. Applying one of these will grant you an additional slot in your personal space traits and your personal ground traits, as well as an additional slot for your ground devices and your kit modules. I actually really like this idea. More personal trait slots is always nice. The device slot really isn't that big of a deal, but I can think of 1 or 2 things that I'd like to put in there. And the kit module slot, that is going to be a big boost for ground builds. These should be hitting the C-Store after today's patch, today being September 14th, assuming I haven't gotten distracted and this video came out later than I hoped. They'll be selling for 1,500 Zen a piece, or you can get a 3-pack for 3,000 Zen. This does make them a little more expensive than the experimental ship upgrade tokens. You gotta keep in mind how many characters a player typically has versus how many ships a player typically has. Cryptic releases new starships all the time, so that keeps demand for the experimental upgrade tokens pretty high. But how often do players create new characters? Certainly not that often. And I know there are players that have, you know, dozens and dozens of characters, but really, I imagine players are really only going to want to apply these to their main characters. Like, I've probably got over a dozen characters, but I only need like 3 or 4 of these because those are the characters I'm playing right now. So yeah, demand for these is probably going to drop pretty sharply, especially considering these are going to be on sale for the first month after their release. So I imagine most players are just going to grab what they need during the sale and then not worry about it ever again. I've seen a lot of people commenting about how this should have been a dilithium purchase instead of a Zen Store purchase, and while we certainly need more dill sinks in the game for the sake of the broken dilithium economy, I don't think this would have been an effective dill sink. Like I said, demand for these things is going to drop very quickly once people upgrade the characters they need. Furthermore, there are similar dill sinks to this that are already in the game. The Fleet Research Lab offers unlocks for reputation trait slots and even a starship trait slot. So if those aren't having an effect on the dilithium exchange, especially during a recruitment event, why would you expect these would? The second announcement gave us details on the rewards for the new Equal and Opposite event. This event is awarding 8 Terran Empire Agony Phaser weapons packs, 3 ultimate tech upgrades for beam weapons and cannons, and a new ship. I really like these rewards. Agony Phasers are some of my favorite energy weapons in the game, and ultimate tech upgrades for my starship weapons, those are definitely helpful. But the ship? That's the real prize. Let's go take a look at the stats. Here we are, the stats for the Mirror Gagarin Warship. While this may look very similar to the C-Store version of the Gagarin, that's really where the similarities end. So if you already own the C-Store version or the Fleet version, don't think that you're just getting a cheaper version of those ships. Stats-wise, these two are very different. The C-Store version is a Miracle Worker battlecruiser, meaning it's very well suited for energy weapons. It's a little more engineer focused because it's a cruiser, and it's not super nimble. This is a warship, meaning it's basically a beefy escort. Warships trade the experimental weapon slot for a regular weapon slot, giving them a total of 8, kind of like a cruiser. However, it'll retain the heavy tactical focus in the bridge officer and console layouts like a normal escort. The ship has a 4-4 weapons layout and 3 device slots. In the bridge officer seating, it has 1 lieutenant tactical, 1 commander tactical, 1 lieutenant commander engineering, 1 ensign science, and 1 lieutenant commander universal/command. In the consoles, it has 5 tactical, 4 engineering, and 2 science, a turn rate of 12, an impulse modifier of 0.18, and an inertia rating of 45, plus 10 to weapons power and plus 10 to shield power. It can equip dual cannons because it is an escort, and it has the Destroyer Mastery package, which in my opinion is the best one because every single one of those stat buffs is an offensive stat. This is one of the reasons why I like warships so much. The console is called Destructive Protomatter Wave Projector. Basically, it targets multiple enemies within its forward-facing cone with a damage over time effect. Any ship that dies with that dot still on it will send out a secondary wave of radiation damage, which can spread that damage over time effect to nearby enemies that get caught in the shockwave. The shockwave deals radiation damage, but the blog doesn't say what type of damage the dot gives, though it's probably a safe bet that it's some sort of exotic damage type, which means this could be useful on EPG builds. However, the passive buffs on this thing are certainly more beneficial to energy weapon builds. It's hard to say how useful this console will be without seeing any actual numbers on it, but it seems like it would be at least a decent budget console for energy weapon builds. The starship trait is called Protomatter Precursor Shields. After using a captain's ability, your forward-facing shield gains an immunity for 5 seconds. During this time, the front-facing shield also regenerates a modest amount. This trait is totally worthless. Shield regen and immunity traits like this are really only good on tank builds or maybe PvP builds. but the fact that this only works on your forward-facing shield makes this completely worthless. Tank builds are typically taking damage from all sides, so that's not going to help you there. And PvPers typically try to aim for your aft arc to take advantage of flanking damage, so this trait is especially useless there. At least that's what I assume. I am by no means an expert in PvP, so if I'm wrong, feel free to correct me. But it feels like a safe assumption. So, is this ship worth getting? Of course it is, it's a free ship. It's not a perfect ship. I really wish it had a 5-3 weapons layout, and it's not a full command ship, so it doesn't have the inspirational abilities, it just has a command seat. But with that command seat, you'll be able to use Concentrate Firepower 3. That, coupled with the decent maneuverability of this ship, plus the Destroyer Mastery package, this is going to be a nice torpedo mine layer. I do still question the logic of giving it a 4-4 weapons layout when both the Starship trait and the console are forward-facing, but it's still a nice ship, and it's free. So yeah, that's the news. I don't know about you guys, but I'm certainly excited. And we could certainly use some excitement after the disappointing announcement for the Parliament class. I only went over the highlights of each announcement, so if you want to go over the full blog post, I'll link both of those down below in the description. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. You've all heard this before, but it really does help the channel and I do appreciate it. Anyway, my name's Stu, and hopefully with the new event coming up, Cryptic will slow down on the announcements so I can actually get a build video done. He said, blaming Cryptic, knowing full well that he's just lazy. Who said that?